Pulver and the wreckers were in a whole world of pain. Positions had been taken, battle lines drawn. One way or another, this was the end of the road for the Autobot commandos. And their arch-enemies, Squadron X. When Impactor spoke to his battle-hardened brigade, there was no mistaking the sense of finality in his voice.
"It's over. Finished,"
he said tersely.
"Squadron X are evil, pure and simple, and it falls to us to put a stop to their reign of terror."
Springer pointed to the silhouette disfiguring the moon.
"That's them,"
he said gravely.
"They've fixed the pale fire."
The Decepticon's fearsome spaceship hung in the air like some predatory bird, waiting for the right moment to strike.
"Face it, Impactor,"
said Rack and Ruin in unison.
"We're aware of our depth. 8 of us against a battle cruiser? Let's split while we still have the chance." "That's where we differ,"
Impactor growled.
"Because I'd rather fight and die than live with the knowledge that I ran."
The others yelled their agreement.
"Then it's decided,"
said Impactor solemnly.
"And if this really is our last stand, there's something I have to say. The truth is,
First Aid stopped reading as he sensed someone approaching him from behind. He tapped the keyboard, and Physitron's 113th data log, The Wreckers, Showdown on Pulver, was replaced by the picture of a fractured elbow joint. Okay, so he was still sitting at the computer terminal when he should have been walking the ward, administering energon boosters and Propex swabs to the patients downstairs. But at least he was now looking at something vaguely medical, instead of reading Physitron's account of how Impactor and his hard-bitten heroes had brought down Squadron X, once and for all. He made sure he was frowning in concentration when Farmer strode past. "Physitron's writing about the wrecker's elbows now, is he?" said Delphi's chief medical officer. "Come on, First Aid. Get to it. You've got a fader in row 2 downstairs." He squeezed the air with his finger and thumb. "He's about this far from shutdown." "I'm on it." For First Aid, life on Delphi, a military hospital on the planet Mesitine, on the fringes of the Cybertronians' galactic battleground, was a series of fits and starts. He'd been stationed there for about 10 years, on and off, and still couldn't call it home. As he headed downstairs, he thought about Pulver, and about bullets and trenches and circuit dampeners. There was no denying it. He loved Data Log 113. As a subscriber to Wreckers Declassified, 113 had been beamed directly into his brain upon its release, enabling him to digest it instantaneously. But he often read it in a more conventional sense, the better to savour its contents. And what thrilling contents. Broadside's desperate gamble with the psychic explosives. Rack and Ruin finally coming clean to Impactor about the tragic nature of their prognosis. Roadbuster bringing down pale fire in a single shot. But the best bit was when Springer and Impactor were in the trench. As Physitron says in his commentary, their mutual affection has never been more apparent, more poignant, than when Springer asks, no, demands, that Impactor shoot him so they both have a chance of survival. First Aid could boast his own connection with the Wreckers, or with Springer anyway. 5 years ago, the leader of the Wreckers had cornered him at a medical conference at Kimia, the space station that doubled as a weapons research facility. "I need your help," Springer had said, grinning that grin of his. First Aid remembered the physique more than anything else. With a chest big enough to accommodate 10 matrices, and shoulders that would put Metroplex to shame, his entire upper body was a bold visual testament to the power of unchecked width. First Aid's eyes had loitered on Springer's infamous med section. There was no scar, no souvenir from Pulver, before he'd replied, "What can I do for you? Straighten your olfactory unit? Upgrade your circuit dampeners? Maybe your center of balance is causing you problems. Are you a bit top-heavy?"
"I'm not looking for that kind of help. I'm looking for helpers. Up-and-coming medics like you who have that little extra to give."
For a terrifying moment, First Aid had thought that Springer had wanted him to be a wrecker. The panic had made his vocal synthesizer misbehave, aborting every sentence after the first syllable. Why?
Relax. I'm not looking for new recruits. You think I'm going to find another roadbuster among all these wretches? No. This is about being the wrecker's eyes and ears.
Springer had passed him a thin rectangle of metal, one side of which was engraved with a single letter. What does the M stand for? First Aid had asked.
You're holding it upside down. Listen, First Aid. That's your name, right? On the other side of that card is my personal hailing frequency. Give me a buzz sometime, and we can talk some more.
Seemed like a long time ago. First Aid reached the ward and started moving from circuit slab to circuit slab, checking on his patients, all of whom had been powered down to minimum operating status, as so to conserve energy. All non-essential functions, including those pertaining to movement and speech, were on hold pending recovery. The enforced silence spooked him. Sometimes, despite himself, he imagined that they were screaming. Their mouths may have been closed, their limbs frozen at the joint, their optics glossy with disuse. But inside their heads, they were screaming.